Testing, 1, 2, 3. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome back, guys, to another video, and today I am doing a M.A.R.K modular assistant registry kernel development video. Um, and yeah, so let's just talk a little about what I've done since the last one. So I did update the registry system. What do I mean by this? Well, there's a lot of systems that need to be registered, right? Or to be initialized, stuff like that. And initially, I just had this pre-init, init, and post-init functions that just, whenever you needed something to be initialized, pre-initialized, post-initialized, etc., then you would just create that method and then call it in here. But I recently just changed that system. So what I did is, instead of the utilities package, I made this interface. And this interface simply contains three methods: pre-init, init, and post-init. And this allows it to be more organized. So whenever there is a system that must be registered, and by registered that means that it must be pre-initialized or initialized or post-initialized, then it will have a separate class specifically to register the system or initialize it instead of the initialization method. And depending on which process, which stage of the initialization it must execute, for example, this custom response registry must be called in the initialization stage, while the IO file registry must be initialized during the pre-initialization stage. Or the nucleus registry must be initialized in the post-initialization stage. It just helps it organize, because before I might have had like a register method for some of them and then like a post initialize for others, and it just didn't really make sense. I had initialization methods called init that were being called in the pre-init, but this organizes it. So now everything that is a initialization class, and that registers a system, it will implement the registry interface. And that way, what it does is it simply, now you can create a method, and that method will automatically be called. So instead of choosing which system I put it into and then creating that method, now all I have to do is create that method and just do registries.add new plugin registries. Right? So let's just run this program and you'll see what happens. So you can see here's my display demo plugin that I made a while ago. Whoops. What just happened? Uh-oh. I forgot how to attach this back to the let's do that. Yep, there we go. So you can see when I first launch it, it has a series of debug information. This is just stuff that helps me, if there's any errors. So let's just go through the structure of the comments. First, we have the system that it's not system. First, we have the program that it is linked to. In this case, this is linked to the core of the project of the voice assistant. So M.A.R.K core. That's why it says core. If there was a plugin that was printing something out, and that plugin was, let's say, called calendar plugin, then instead of core, it would say calendar plugin. Then, after we state which program it is coming from, we state whether it is an information log, or a warning log, or an error log. And we also state just some additional information, like is it part of initialization, is it part of a plugin registry, stuff like that. Usually it's part of the initialization. So that's why it says init/info over here, because it is information about the initialization of something. So after that piece of information, we state, or I state, what package this class, the class that it's being called from, belongs to. So over here, it just says com.mark core, and then it says, and that's the package, right? And then it just states whatever it's logging. And that's it for that. Now over here, you can see it just says startup done, waking M.A.R.K core. So we are, so let's just go through this really quickly. So it executes the waking process, it adds the shutdown hook, and then it tells you that it successfully adds it. And then it attempts to register all registries, and if there were an error, then it would not successfully register all registries. It attempts to execute pre-init sequence, and then in that part of that pre-init sequence is checking the plugins folder, and if that plugins folder does not exist, then it will create that folder, but because it already exists, it just prints out plugins directory already exists, skipping lines, attempting to register, successfully registered, successfully executed pre-init sequence. Now this plugins folder is actually quite important. So you can see in the com.mark.core, so that's the main package. There's an info attempting to execute pre-init sequence. So let's just zoom in a little. So pre-init sequence. Let's just go into the plugin registry, and because we know it's part of the pre-init sequence, because it stated it, I know exactly where the following statement came from, which is plugin registry does not exist, creating a new one. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to print out core, and I'm just going to say plugin registry/info, and then I'm going to say com.mark.core.init, because that's the package name, and I'm going to say attempting to scan directories of attempting to scan plugins directory for plugins. This includes checking the existence of the directory, of the directory plugins. Right? So, we just added that comment. That will help me in the future. And if we actually take a look at the console, you can see right here this third print, or this third log, says successfully added shutdown hook to runtime and connected it to the terminate program. What does that mean? Well, when I stop the program, you can see these lines are printed. Shutdown hook /warn M.A.R.K abruptly terminated. This could be a problem. And then it attempts to shut down, and then that includes attempting to terminate all the plugins. So it iterates through all the plugins. There's only one plugin, so it says attempting to terminate plugin this, and then once it's terminated, it prints out that it successfully terminated it, and then once it's done terminating all programs, it said successfully terminating all programs, including plugins. So I just realized that I am missing a line down here. Oh, before I move on, so essentially I just have this registry registries array list with all of the different registries that exists. And so whenever I want a system to have a registry, I just create the class called registry, add um, the I just implement the interface, and then I just uh, implement the overridden method that belongs to the associated initialization stage, and then I just add it to this register registries, and I'm done, and it'll handle everything else. It makes setting up a registry a lot simpler and a lot cleaner, and it's easier to understand. And easier to trace problems as well. And so when we actually do call the pre-initialization, initialization, etc., what it does is it just loops through all of the registries, and for each registry, let's say for the pre-initialization method, it'll just loop through all of the registries that we have registered in the program, and it'll call the pre-init method. And not all of these registries have the pre-init, and if it doesn't, then it won't call it. If it does, it will invoke it. So this terminate program, I'm actually going to refactor this to on terminate. I just like that wording better. But I just realized I don't have the proper what you call it, comment format, so I'm just gonna say shutdown hook/info com.mark.core, just like that. And let's just say updated debug log/info, because that's all we really did. And for some reason, oh, let's just merge. Okay, it says there were changes. I don't remember making any changes. Let's see. 21. Okay, so this is the left. Check commands. There's no initialization method. This one does have an initialization method. Okay, wait, let's head over to the shoot. Let's just say accept yours. Oh, push canceled because there were conflicts. Debug manager. There's no initialization command. Commit and push. Okay. Gotta check. I gotta update the project more often. Okay. So yeah, so I just fixed the registry system up a little. And then I moved on to yeah, not that interesting, but it's a plugin template. So I just have the sample plugin class, which people will be able to change to whatever the name of the plugin is. And then I have this comms package. I have this transceiver, which just has two methods, queue message and read last message. Queue message is obviously going to queue a message to send to another plugin, and read last message will read the last message that it received. Then we have the initialization, which so far just has the launcher. Reference, which this is the reference file. This makes it easy for people to change the information of the plugin. For example, the name, if they want to change the name, they just change it here. Not very confusing. If they want to change the ID, they change the ID. If they want to change the info, etc. And now, referencing this information is also really easy. As you can see, just go over here. It prints, whenever I want to reference something, I do reference.name, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I hate myself for saying that. Now, this console print is actually temporary because it will be replaced by sending a message. So it's going to send this as a string to the transceiver, in which case it will queue that message, and then that will print onto the main program's console or terminal. And how I think the communications is going to work, it's obviously going to communicate via some sort of external file. I was thinking maybe a TXT file or a serialization. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. But either way, how it's going to work is they're going to ping each other. So when the main plugin, when it first loads up, it's going to ping. It's going to load the file and that load the plugin and register it, and that includes pinging it. And when that plugin is run, it's going to look for a ping, and if it receives that ping, then it's going to send a ping back. By ping, it just means a message confirming that it received um, uh, uh, an acknowledgement of existence from the other program, right? So they're gonna be pinging each other, and um, stuff like that. I hate myself for just keep saying what yeah, I sound illiterate. I'm sorry. Um, and yeah, just some other stuff. I might not use the registry for the plugin stuff just because that seems a little what do you call it? A little repetitive. I don't know. Anyways, so uh yeah, that's pretty much it. It's already 10 o'clock, and so I want to go to bed. That way I'm fully rested for tomorrow because I have not been getting. I've been going to bed at like 12 midnight. Um, last night, night before that, and I don't want to keep doing that just because I want to enjoy life and be awake to enjoy it, right? So, all right. So we committed that, I believe, right? Commit. Come on, work, work, work. Commit. Yep. Okay. Also, happy Halloween. Um, that's in a few weeks. Also, or not a few weeks, a few days. Also, it's pretty funny that so like my friend Jack, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm turning 16 on November 1st." I'm like, "Oh, that's great." And Clay's like, "Yeah, I'm already 16." And I'm still 14. Clay is literally 2.5 years older than I am. If his math is correct, that's what he told me. I told him my birthday. He's like, "Wow, I'm 2.5 years older than you." And then Jack was like, "Bro, you're 14." So yeah, I guess I'm just that smart. I, when I say that, by the way, I'm joking. But yeah. And just a side note, I don't know why I wanted to say this, but my three favorite shows are South Park, Modern Family, and The Big Bang Theory. Let me explain why, because this actually has to do with a lot more than just comedy. I obviously, from the pattern, like comedy shows, but each of these shows, I like them for different but similar reasons. South Park, I'll do that. Actually, let's start with the Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory I like because the comedy is great. Um, and but more importantly, it's about tolerance and don't judge a book by its cover. And there's a lot more beneath the surface of a person when you get to know them. And Modern Family is it's funny, of course, but it's actually I like it less about the comedy, but more because it ran for 11 years. That's a really long time. In fact, yeah, that's a really long time, and for me at least. And you get to see the characters grow up and be with their families, and it really just it reminds me to be happy. One of Phil's in the story, one of Phil's um, mottos is find the fun in every moment. That really resonates with me, Make the most out of life, make the most out of time. because it's not unlimited, and it will come to an end at some point. But, you know, really reminds you to cherish all the moments you have with your family, the people you love, and to really love, um, being alive, make the most of life, and also make the most of being with your family, um, and also just the progression of seeing the kids on the show grow up. It makes me go like, wow, I'm also aging really quickly, too quickly. So that's also a reminder. And South Park, it also has a lot of life lessons, but they're more political life lessons. For example, never judge a person by their no, not color, by their political beliefs. Um, and also treat everybody equally, no matter what. Um, the show makes fun of Democrats and Republicans equally. That they have a very neutral stance, which really resonates with me. I mean, I went to the most democratic school in the universe. you know, Literally all immigrants, and they weren't well off. They're all from different countries. It was literally called International School of Brooklyn, and yes, it was a private school, but it wasn't an expensive private school. It was, you know, I'm convinced like 90% of the class had financial aid, and it wasn't, and the tuition was like less than half of what normal private schools cost. But yeah, it was an extremely democratic school. In fact, there it was so democratic that, or stereotypically democratic, that their academics were so shit because all they focused on were democratic political beliefs. And then one day, in sixth grade, when I was supposed to be going back to that school, I instead went to Browning. And that was a completely different environment, and I freaked out because all of the kids there, or not all, a lot of the kids there were conservative. So a lot of them were Trump supporters, and I wouldn't say all of them were. I'd say like a good 60% were, and somewhat still are. But from that, I learned don't judge a person by their political belief because, for example, my friend Clay, hardcore Trump supporter. My friend Kyle, hardcore Republican. One of the nicest people I know, nicer than some of my Democratic friends, more reasonable than some of my Democratic friends, and even more caring. Um, and yeah, South Park really just gives that neutral stance, and sometimes you'll make friendships out of those who you don't think you can ever agree with. Um, and there's a ton of different moments in South Park that display a different yet meaningful and reasonable message. Anyways, see you guys.